Everybody, please don't get offended and any background noise. If you could actually all just please go into the chat bar and post an emoji or something, just so we know you can hear us, that'd be great. Is anyone able to post in the chat bar? Yep, perfect. That's great. Perfect. So yeah, also we'll be finishing up today's session with Q&A. So any questions you have during the presentation, please just post them in the chat bar. I'll collate them all and we can cover them at the end. We're very fortunate today to have Protiviti with us. Protiviti are a leading global consultancy. Their expertise in delivering technology solutions to clients is second to none. And this can be evidenced by their fact they are a Microsoft Gold partner and have been for the last 17 years. Today we are joined by two of Protiviti's senior leaders, Roland Brandang and Nicholas Perner. A bit of background on both of them. Roland is one of the managing directors in London and a global leader for Protiviti's digital identity practice. This practice actually helps organizations ensure the right people and things have the right access at the right time. The main domains that includes are identity governance and administration, privileged access management and authentication. Roland's experience is delivering a range of services to a number of some of the world's leading organizations, so he's very tenured and very well experienced. Nicholas manages the technology delivery practice in London. His team specialise in helping organizations identify and implement the right technology solutions so that clients can meet their IT risk and compliance objectives. Nicholas also has a very strong track record of working and helping clients across Europe to realise the benefits of implementing the right technology solutions. So on that point, I will hand over to Roland and Nicholas to do the presentation. And as mentioned, please put your questions in the chat bar and we can cover that at the end. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Craig, for the introduction and also for arranging this great event. So I think it's all very clear to us now that we're living in a very different world. The majority of us are remote working. Even traditionally on-premise functions like call centers are now largely working remotely. And Teams is a platform that's often been turned on in some instances overnight, and certainly within a matter of days rather than the weeks or months that these platforms are normally turned on and released. My observation from the market and with my clients is that organizations are effectively turning on the very basic use cases around calls, chats, and meetings, but are still failing to realize the broader benefits and really to envision the broader benefits that this powerful collaboration platform can offer. Nico, if you can just go to the next slide. So what is all the fuss about? So I think there's a lot here, and we will share this pack separately, but I just want to add some color to these dot points here. So in terms of Teams being fully integrated, I think it's important to recognize that Office 365, which Nico will explain, underpins the Teams suite, is a productivity suite. And I think something that's not as obvious to people is that introducing a productivity suite via a collaboration platform like Teams just makes a lot of sense. There's a lot more context for users to use tools like OneNote, Planner, Forms, Sway, and Azure DevOps, to name a few, within the context of a team. And those are just a few that we've been using extensively, which we'll walk through in the demo in a moment. Security, so this is something that we hear a lot about lately because Teams and Zoom in particular has been in the news around this topic as people have been using it more frequently. So I'll flag a few points here. So like other software as a service or cloud platforms, Teams is in the cloud and the shared responsibility model still applies to it. So what we mean by that is Microsoft is responsible, if you will, for security of the cloud. So the actual software itself and the data centers that it resides in. But organizations like us and like yourselves are responsible for security in the cloud. So I think some considerations here are think about this as a layered sense of security that you have or approach. So you have your instance itself and some considerations there, whether or not you want to be exposing that outside of your organization via federation or just through guests, or just having people being able to call in to meetings like the one we're running now. We then have, beneath that, you have your teams and your channels. And there's a lot of flexibility about who you can allow to access and talk in and amongst those teams and channels. And then finally, the data that resides within Teams, which is managed primarily by the underlying Office 365 applications that you're using. The next bullet here, chat. So I think what we're seeing certainly a lot of, and I think this has been pretty true for all of us, over time, has been, the magic usually happens between meetings. And I think in this case, it's on the chat that persists after meetings end. So quite often we'll have, big team meetings, but what you'll find is the chatter that happens between those meetings is where a lot of productivity happens. I've personally seen in our business, resourcing conversations happen within minutes, and it felt uncomfortable at first, but it was extremely quick. And these are things that used to take days over emails, which now happen in minutes over chats. Calls, I think I'll call out next. So I think this is interesting to me. So Microsoft Teams does integrate with telephony systems like Genesys, for example. I think the broader point here is that Teams integrates with a lot. So within Microsoft and outside of it. And I think the broader benefit we're looking at here is just having a single workplace for your people, for our people. So I think if we think about Teams as being a place, and when you add in the decreased amount of email traffic, Teams does really become your workplace, your virtual workplace of the future. And if we look at the final point here, Teams is very friendly on the mobile. So now we don't only have access to so our virtual desktop all through Teams, but once we get moving again, we now have access to that to a high standard on your mobile phone as well. So that's just a very brief level set. I think Nicholas is now going to talk us through what Teams actually is, and then start the demo for us. Thanks, Nico.
Thank you, Roland. Good morning, everyone. So as explained by Roland, Teams can act as a central hub of communication and productivity for you and your organization. So it's very much centered around conversation. So you can have a chat, you can have threaded conversations, you can have meetings and video conferencing, you can have calls, you can have a file sharing, and so on. So Teams brings all Microsoft applications that you need on a day-to-day basis, right? In one central place. So as you can see on the screen, so Teams sits on top of your Office 365 groups or applications. So you've got access to SharePoint for file management, but also to OneDrive. And basically, SharePoint there will be a SharePoint behind each team site within your teams. You've got as well a planner for task management. You've got OneNote for notes. You've got an access to a wiki as well, and you've got an integration with other systems and services. You've got connectors as well. So you've got more than 300 applications available in Teams that you can bring in your different Teams sites and channels. So as explained by Roland before, so Teams is basically a layer over the Office 365 application. And it's quite important because when we start talking about security, compliance, governance within Teams, all these different topics will be linked to Office 365. So what I will do now, so I will jump into a demonstration of Teams. And before doing that, I've got I've got two slides actually that I wanted to share with you. So the first one is just an overview of Teams, right? So you can see the screenshot of the Teams application. If we start from the top, you've got in the navigation ribbon a first link called activity, where basically you can catch up on all your unread messages, your @mentions, your replies. If you go down in the list, you've got the chat where you can have private one-on-one or group conversations that are not necessarily in the public team channel. This is where you can also share files, links, and media with people you are chatting to. Then you've got your teams, where you can have the list of all your different teams sites, your channels you belong to, and within a channel you will be able to have meetings, conversations, share files, and so on. So we'll see that in more details during the demonstration. Then you've got the calendar view, which is basically everything you've got lined up for the day or the week. You can schedule a meeting from this view, and there is here a synchronization with your Outlook, which is quite an interesting functionality, because you will be able to schedule meetings as well from Outlook and see them within your Teams. Then obviously you've got calls. You can call any Teams users. Then you've got files, where you will be able to view and access your Teams files and your OneDrive files and folders. What is it's pretty much a SharePoint view that we'll have here. Well, as I said before, what is important here is to understand that behind a team site, you've got a SharePoint. You will have the possibility to have channels within the team site, and a channel will be basically a folder within a SharePoint. But we can talk about it a bit later in the demonstration. Then you've got the possibility to find application or pin applications within your navigation ribbon. I don't know if you want to have quick access to Planner, for example. You can select Planner and pin Planner to your navigation ribbon. And at the bottom, you can see a link to access the apps. So you can access more than 300 apps, and you can enable them to be used within your teams. That's pretty much on this slide. So if we go a little bit in more details regarding Teams. So I'm currently within the Teams section of my navigation ribbon. You can see that I've got the list of all my Teams site that I belong to, or that I have created. So I can obviously choose a name. I can add an icon for each team site. I can move them up and down. I can hide them if I don't need to see a couple of them. And then I've got channels. So each Teams site will be created by default with a general channel. So this is what you can see in green on the slide. So the first channel is called general. So this is something that you will see within each Teams site. And then you can create more channels. So in that current team site, the design thinking community, I've got 4 additional channels available that I can access, and I can then pin some of these channels so that they will be available in the top section of this view. So we'll see that during the demonstration. At the top of the screen, you've got the command box, which is quite a useful search functionality. So I can search for anything. I can search for people within my organization. I can search for a keyword. I can search for an application as well. So that's a very useful functionality to quickly access information. And I've got tabs as well, as you can see on this view. So I'm currently within one channel, which is the general channel, and I've got a couple of tabs available. So I've got the posts, the files, and I've got other specific tabs that have been created within this channel. And at the bottom, this is where I will be able to create or join a team site. Yeah, we will demo that as well later or in a couple of minutes. So what I will do now, I will go into my Teams, my desktop Teams, and I will demo you the different key functionalities of Teams. Okay.
Just while Nicholas is doing that, I'll ask for some patience potentially. We're all obviously on different bandwidths at the moment. So if there is a delay, we are trying to make this as real as possible by doing a live demo, but clearly there is a danger in that. So bear with us. I'll also just take this time to ask people to add some questions into the chat if you have any.
Thank you, Roland. So I'm currently within my desktop Teams. Yeah, so we can see the navigation ribbon that I explained before. I can see the command bar, and I will start with it, right? So for example, if I look for if I enter David, so I can see all the David people within my my organization that I can access. Yeah, if I want to change my status, I can quickly change it to busy, for example, and then I will set my status to busy. Otherwise, I can also look for, I don't know, the weather. So this is an application that I have installed in my Teams environment. So I can, for example, enter London. I should be able to access the London weather. So you can do a lot from your command bar. And I've got as well here at the top my my account image with some quick access, so I can, for example, save some messages and access the messages from by clicking on save here. So I will show you that in a minute as well. I will demo you the activity section, but for that I will go into my online Teams. So this is a different environment. So well, it's different. It's still Teams, but within my my online environment. And I'm currently within activity, and this is where I will be able to see all activities I am currently in. Yeah, I can see replies, I can see all at mentions and so on, and then I can react as well to the different activities. Okay, if I go into chat, yeah, I will be able to see all the different chats. Yeah, I'm in. It could be one-to-one chats. It could be a chat with multiple people. So I've got a group of people here, for example. And let's say that I want to start a new chat with, for example, Charlie within my organization. Yeah, so I click on Charlie, and you can see that automatically I can see the threaded conversation with Charlie, and then I can enter a new message and send that message to Charlie. So if that chat is important to me, I can save this message, yeah, and then you can see the pop-up here at the top, which means that I can quickly access all my saved message by clicking on saved from my account icon on the top. If I click on it, then I will basically access all my saved messages. So it's quite useful. I tend to use that a lot because if you start using Teams quite heavily, just like we do at Protiviti, then you will end up having a lot of messages and conversations. So it's quite useful to quickly access the chats that are important to you. I will go back to my desktop Teams. Here we go. And I will now talk about the teams and channels themselves. So here, this is where you can create a bit of structure, I would say. So you can create Teams sites, and then you can invite people to join the team sites and channels. So you can have a maximum of 500 people within a team site, and you can have up to 200 channels within a team site. So the channels are basically the chapters that you can see below a specific team site. Yeah. So if I've got a specific channel that I want to focus on, I can click on the more options link, and then I can pin this channel. If I don't want to use it, I can hide it. And by pinning a channel, then the channel will be available at the top section of my teams. And as you can see here, I've got 5 channels currently pinned and available and quickly available to for access. So I will dive into this monthly risk reporting channel. Here we go. This is the one that I've got here. And by default, I'll have the post tab. I've got the files tab, but I have also created other tabs. Yeah. So as you can see, I've also added a nice icon to my teams, and I can see that this monthly risk reporting channel belongs to the risk management group teams, which will be available further below in my teams list. Okay, so let's talk about post first. Yeah, so if I want to start a conversation or mention something to someone in my channel group, I can use the @ so I can say, okay, at Cheryl, could you please look at the report? And then I can post this message. I've got the possibility to have access to more format options, which is quite interesting as well. So I can bring in more formatting. Or what I can do as well, I can make this new conversation an announcement here to make it more just like a Yammer post, for example, where I can add a headline, have more content, and then I've got the possibility to share this announcement with multiple channels. So within one channel, within one team, I can create an announcement or a conversation that I can share between multiple channels. So this is an interesting functionality. I think another, so I will just delete this one. Here we go, discard. Another interesting functionality that I find within Teams and post on conversation is the possibility to share a specific message with through Outlook. So we've got a share to Outlook here option. So in that specific example, I want to share this risk reporting result with someone. So by clicking on this link, I can see here the integration with Outlook. So my Outlook will open, and then that will have a mail open, and then I can share that, for example, with Roland, and I can add some comments, and my post will be included in this email view. Yeah, so as I said before, you've got also the option to here we go. So if I go back to my channel, I can get the email address of my channel, yeah, and I can write as well an email from Outlook and include that email address within the recipient, and then the email will directly go into my post, into my conversation. And that's an example here. So I sent that email a couple of days ago, and this is directly coming from my Outlook. So there is a lot to say here, but just conscious of time, I will move to the next tab, and I will go into files. And this is basically here your SharePoint, just like a SharePoint view. So I've got I can create folders. I can have all different types of documents available. I can view my documents in tiles if I prefer. So I will come back to my list view. I've got a risk heat map here that I want to make I want to make it a tab of my channel, so I can select the option, make this a tab. So in that particular example, you will see that the risk heat map will then appear as a tab of my channel, and people will be able to directly go into this tab and make some changes. So let me come back to my files tab. Here we go, and then you've got all the different functionalities that you might have into a SharePoint. So you can check out a document. You can directly open the document into SharePoint. You can delete, you can download, and so on. So we said before that Teams is really a collaborative tool. So if I look at this Excel, I've got the possibility to open it. Here we go. In Excel directly, in Teams, or in Excel online, and that's quite interesting. So if I open the file within Excel or online, then I will have the possibility to see other people working within the same document at the same time. If I go into my wiki, this is where I can take some notes. You've got also the option to use OneNote for that. I do prefer using a wiki. I think it's more, it's easier, but then it depends on what you like using as a Microsoft application. So I find it very useful to take some notes. Looking at other tabs, a great functionality is the possibility to have a website available within your channel. So I've created this one. So within my monthly risk reporting, I have included quick access to the Protiviti Enterprise Risk Management website, where my team can find a lot of interesting information at any time. So that it's quite a cool functionality. The possibility to create a home. So this is basically using a SharePoint functionality, but I can here create a home, and all new activities or new documents will be included automatically into this home. So when you are coming back to a channel, you can directly go into your home and see what's happening basically within your channel if you don't have the notification activated, for example. So that's an interesting functionality. Risk planner. This is where I can create some tasks, and I think that Roland will talk a bit more about it later during this webinar. So I can add tasks. I can assign tasks to people. So if I view them by progress, I can see the not started ones, the in progress one, the completed ones, and then I can have a chart view as well of my tasks, as well as a schedule view if I want to see them in a calendar view. And last but not least, an interesting functionality as well is the possibility to create forms within Teams. So I don't know why it's not loading. Here we go, and you can define any forms, right? So if you want to create a form and share that form with people. So in that particular example, I created a new risk form where I can enter a risk name, a risk description. I can quickly assess my risk in terms of impact likelihood, and then I can share this form. So if I click on copy and I go into a web browser, I can basically access the form from here, and then I can submit my responses. So let me open that for you. Yeah, so I can enter a risk name. I can give a description. Then I can evaluate my my risk in terms of impact and likelihood, and then I can submit. And then coming back to my Teams channel, then I will be able, here we go, to see responses and to have some stats around this this form. Something else that I wanted to mention around channels is the possibility to integrate a channel with a workflow. So the workflow can start outside Teams or can start inside Teams. And I want to just want to show you one video on this, which is an integration of Teams with Nintex workflow. So Nintex is basically a process automation tool. So that could be the workflow can be a Nintex one, or it can be or it could be a Microsoft one. So in that specific example, I create a new bid team outside Teams. So I enter a name, I enter a description, then I will select the team that will be working on this new bid. I will click a couple of options, and then the form has been submitted outside Teams. Then when I go into my Teams, you can see that the bid is automatically created. The channels will be automatically created, and the people, the right people and users will be automatically linked to my different channels and Teams. So in that specific example here, if I go into manage team, I can see that 2 people have been automatically linked based on the group that I selected in my form. Then there is a contract review channel where I can see a welcome message that I can like. Here we go. And then I've got some other channels available automatically created by my workflow. And I've got here another workflow available or another form available within my team site, within my channel, where I can submit the contract. So I can enter a due date, information about the value, and then submit. And then this is just a view of the bidding process. So this is pretty much what I wanted to show you about that integrations with workflow. That can be quite powerful, to be honest with you. Okay, just so I will go ahead and I will go into calendars. And calendar, this is basically a view of all my meetings. And this is also where I will be able to quickly create a new meeting. So I can enter the name. So this is a new meeting with Roland, for example. I can enable the camera. I can also blur my background. As you can see, I've got a set of predefined Microsoft background available, but I can also have my own picture. So you can see this nice picture of Rome.
Nicholas, can you please just verify you're sharing your screen? I seem to have lost it.
Okay, sorry. Let me do it again. Okay, can you see me back? Yeah.
I cannot.
No, Nicholas,
so I will share my screen again. Here we go. I think that here we go.
There you go.
Yeah.
So basically, I lost connection because I started a new meeting. So let me go into my calendar view, and I can also create a new meeting from here. I think the other thing is that I can also create a meeting within my Outlook, and the meeting will be automatically synchronized with the calendar of my team site. Okay, so calls. This is where I will be able to access all my contacts, all my history, voicemails as well. I will skip I will skip the files section and then go into Planner as well, where I will be able to see all the different tasks coming from the different channels and team sites I belong to. It's quite useful, so I can see basically my not started tasks, my in progress ones, my completed ones. And then I can focus. I've got some functionalities available at the top that can be quite useful to manage my tasks. Possibility to add more app. Yeah, so I've got, for example, a Robert Half service deck application available. So if I click on it, it will then be added to my navigation ribbon, and I can pin it so that it will remain here for a quick access. I think that's pretty much all I wanted to share with you in terms of a Teams overview, and I will hand over to Roland now to talk more about PMO management within Teams. So I will stop sharing.
Thank you so much, Nico. I'm going to cross my fingers and share my screen now. And Nico, if you'd be so kind, can you just verify for me when you can see it?
I can see your screen now.
Great, thank you. So I'm going to switch to my Teams environment and select the Teams enabled PMO. So this is one of the, I'll say, prefabricated teams that Protiviti is now using with multiple clients. I'm going to only go through the material that I feel could do with a little bit of additional explanation after Nico's presentation. So firstly, I have used a wiki in this case, just to introduce new project team members to this PMO team site. As you'd expect, it just helps them with onboarding in terms of them understanding what we're doing in this team and how we're using these add-ons from Office 365 specifically. One thing I'm passionate about is it's important that we have made our normal on-premise activities available for our people remotely. But the other thing that I want to make sure my clients don't do is miss an opportunity to do this stuff better, right? So one of the things that we're doing successfully with clients now is what we call a pre-project press release. It's internally, we also call it a cover story mockup. In this instance, what we've done is we work with organizations initially to surface divergent points of view or priorities on a project, and then synthesize that into this pre-project press release. Amazon does this quite famously. But in this case, we talk about the process as well as the output, and then we use this as a way of adding a layer of governance into the projects that we're doing with our clients. And this is something that just keeps us honest in terms of some of the softer things that we've agreed jointly would lead to success in our projects. Nico, can I ask you to go on mute? I think I can hear your background.
Yeah, sorry.
So I have a form here as well that Nicholas showed, so I won't go through this in detail, but this is what we've been using to gather more static data around the different projects within this program. I also have my dashboard of activities. What I'll add to Nico's overview, which was helpful, is some of the inbuilt, this is the board that people will use day to day. We also have some default charts and schedules. I think overall what we're finding is this has been useful from a program management perspective. But for your hardcore traditional project management, it probably does need to be supplemented by something like Microsoft Project, or, and this is probably the more strategic answer, maybe longer term, if not immediately, is Azure DevOps. So in these tasks, you can see it's somewhat limited in terms of what I can actually do with it. But when I use something like Azure DevOps, I can do things like add dependencies into it, which makes it a bit more feature rich. So another thing that we've had to enable ourselves to do remotely, but I think is maybe working better than it was on premise, is Standups. So quite often with Standups, which are traditionally on site with people and post-it notes, perhaps what we now have people doing is just pre-populating, in this case, a OneNote to show people what they have to report, and then just spending literally the first 10 minutes of a meeting to read through that and only talk about things that have overlapping interest. And I don't know about you guys, but having a bit of silence on a virtual meeting is, to me, it's different, and it's nice and effective. The other thing I'll flag here is, so I guess maybe quite obviously, Power BI does integrate quite well with Teams, as you'd expect. So in this case, we have some dashboards that we've built within a fixed but fairly common program governance structure. So we have all the power of Power BI in this. This is something that we can quite easily tailor for clients based on their PMO structure. And I'll also show what we have in terms of retrospectives. So one of the, it doesn't seem like an overly technical use case, but being able to just jointly work on Excel files, for example, is a very helpful feature of Teams and Office 365. So we call this method for feedback Rose, Thorn, Bud. It's just a very quick way of understanding what people like, what people don't like, and where we see potential for improvement. And we've been using this very successfully for retrospectives, either at the project level, a whole year of a program, as well as sprints. And what we do is we have every user populate this, copy that into what we call an affinity cluster, and then we have a discussion around, potentially convergent or divergent points of view around different themes. And then we use that again to improve as we go from sprint to sprint or project to project. The last thing I'll show here is just another version of this. In this case, this is it's a PowerPoint document, but I think I'd be remiss, because I know that we have a lot of very senior people on this call. Power BI dashboards, I think, are quite helpful up to the sort of program director level, but quite often the sponsor doesn't get enough from that, or they need to interpret it too much to understand, just where they are. So in this instance, this is a cybersecurity dashboard for a CISO, Chief Information Security Officer, or in that case, even their sponsor, the CIO quite often, or the COO. And what we've done here is we have ongoing been breaking up their overall cybersecurity, their defensible security posture into 3 areas: discovery, controls, and capabilities. And this is just a way of, I think, acknowledging to sponsors and people like yourselves that, we are effectively managing this project, but we also know exactly where you are in terms of your overall posture. So those are the key things I wanted to flag. The other thing, I think, just a couple notes I took during Nicholas's presentation, is this is a platform that does work well if you just add websites in. So in this case, we were just using Harvard University as an example of an organization that we could work with. But you could also, if you wanted to migrate gradually from tools like Jira, which are web-based, you could also incorporate Jira into this. And just to really show you, the extent to which you can integrate other web applications, I've even incorporated or integrated a Google Doc into my team in order to enable some collaboration with somebody who didn't have access to the Microsoft suite on their mobile devices. So that's another thing I want to flag. And then finally, because Nicholas kindly showed the workflow before, another thing that we can do is, this is one program, but if you wanted to enable this across your overall program office, you could set up a workflow quite easily to gather criteria about your project. And if, for example, there were some triggers there on things like GDPR or PCI DSS or conduct risk, any of these things that might be really important to you, or MHRA for that matter, you can automatically create team sites which reflect that level of risk, and also have different requirements built into your PMO team. Finally, I failed to mention before that the pre-project press release I showed was using Microsoft Sway. So, Nicholas, that's all I wanted to cover quickly. Again, this is just giving you guys another example. Quite often clients just want to envision what's possible in Teams. So hopefully with the use cases that Nicholas shared and the one I just showed, you now have a better view of that. I'm going to stop sharing, Nicholas, and I'll let you take over.
Thank you, Roland. So I will share my screen again. Here we go. So you should be able to see my my screen again. So this one is more talking about roadmap, right? So when you want to implement roll out Microsoft Teams within your organization. It's just like any other IT or implementation project. You need to do some proper planning and think about your roadmap. And this is the roadmap that we are suggesting. It's one example that we are suggesting at Protiviti. But obviously, we would be very keen to work with you in more details about this potential rollout within your organization. So first, it's quite important to do some proper understanding of your readiness, and it can include understanding of your existing deployments, discussion of your timeline, the roadmap, the strategy, an overview of your architecture, your governance, your security, your compliance, and this is basically represented by the two first phases that you can see on this slide. Then it's quite good practice to do a pilot. Which is basically to proof test the deployment of Teams within a reduced or specific business group or for a specific use case. And also by identifying early adopters, it will make sure that deployment will be a success. And then the last one, which is the proper deployment of Teams, including awareness, education, technical updates, and so on. Roland, I don't know if you want to add something on this.
No, I think the main thing I would just say is, there is a lot to consider in a Teams deployment, but I don't want this to appear to be a very linear and lengthy process. So clearly, most of us on the call are already getting some benefit from Teams, but the main thing that we're impressing on clients is the need to have your roadmap well defined, so that when you start implementing additional use cases, that you are considering some of these important considerations around governance and security, which will be different when you start using this for project management than it would be if you were just using it for calls. And different still if you decided to externalize this to other clients or partners.
Thank you, Roland. So I'm going to the next slide. This is an example of business scenarios and use cases of Teams. So obviously, I did a pretty generic demonstration of Teams. Roland dived into PMO, but you've got a lot of different use cases that we wanted to summarize, well, not to share with you on this slide, but yeah, obviously there can be more. This is certainly that we can see across our clients. So you can see at the bottom the project management, operations and project management one that Roland presented. And you've got at the top right the finance one. I think that the key thing that I would like to highlight here is that when you start working with Teams here, you can have communication and productivity within one place. So you can share a lot of documents and information between the users within one place, and that's very powerful, especially if you are using a lot of Excel spreadsheets, a lot of documents. People can easily collaborate within Teams. Here we go. I think we've got 10 minutes or a bit less, 5-7 minutes for questions.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you, Roland and Nicholas. That was great. As Nicholas said, that wraps up our presentation part today. Appreciate that. Yeah, we are almost at the hour mark, so we've got 10 minutes now to move on to the Q&A. Please post any questions in the chat bar. The first question we got today in the chat bar was, how does the functionality of Teams compare with interactive software such as Mentimeter or Mural in terms of impactful workshop facilitation and active collaboration?
Yeah, so I did provide a somewhat detailed response to this, Craig, in the chat. So firstly, those are two great platforms. I absolutely love them for the design thinking that we're often doing with clients. I would say that Teams is still, as a platform, is still a little bit behind those two particular tools for what they do specifically. But those tools are extremely behind on what Teams does overall. And I think the right way of using that is, so Mentimeter, we have very successfully used that in the past within Teams training sessions, just to provide links out to people to ask, for example, what people think about when we say creativity. And Mentimeter just does a nicer job of visualizing that for us, even though within Teams, we could use something similar using an embedded form into the chat. Similarly for Mural, that's probably, to me, the leading product for remote design thinking. But we have done, there's a cost to it, and we have done similar design thinking sessions using collaboration on Office 365 documents via Teams.
Thanks, Roland. The next question was, how does the add a room functionality work on a call?
So Benjamin provided a very lengthy response to this in the chat, and he knows this probably a little bit better than I do. But my understanding of this is, this room is something that you might have more advanced audiovisual equipment set up for. So we, for example, have this. So in my background, which is a picture of our innovation site in London, we do have some advanced audiovisual equipment tied to it. So when we initiate meetings from there, we add that room, which allows us to leverage the benefits of those tools. Probably just a little bit less relevant today because the physical rooms obviously aren't available to us.
Thanks, Roland. And we got some questions prior as well. One of them being, what is the business case to use Teams chat and channels over emails?
Yeah, I can take this one, Roland. So I think the main difference is that you've got everything in one place. So Teams is really centered around conversations, so with chats, with conversations, with calls. So it brings more than a simple email, especially if you want to work internally with some of your colleagues. I can see the benefit within my team, so you don't have to send 100 emails and then look for your different emails within your Outlook. You directly go into your channel, and then you can see the different threads and all the history and all the documents in one place. So you don't need to go back to your email. So there is definitely some value here. Obviously, emails are still useful when you want to communicate externally and more formally with your clients, for example. Yeah, so that would be my personal experience, I would say.
Thanks, Nicholas. Also, one was, is Skype for Business and Zoom the same thing as the call functionality within within Teams? Apologies.
I can take this one as well. So basically, Teams is replacing Skype for Business. So there will be an end, which I think will be July 2021 for Skype for Business. You will not be able to use it anymore. And I think that Microsoft is pushing clients to migrate to Teams, mainly because I think there was some performance limitation within Skype that you don't have anymore within Teams right now. So I would say that Teams is replacing Skype and is adding more functionality around collaboration with all the access to Microsoft applications.
Okay, thank you. And another one was, will Microsoft enable full functionality of Excel, Word, etc. in Teams, or will they only have a slimmed down version within Teams?
It's a good question. I think that currently you can see some differences within your desktop application, your Excel desktop application, and Excel and your team version of Excel. But Microsoft is adding new functionalities every week within Teams. So I suspect that very quickly the two versions or the two applications will be very similar. But yeah, currently there is a difference, but I suspect that that difference will be less and less visible going forward.
Perfect. And the final question was, can we prevent users from doing certain actions in Teams?
I can take this one as well. All is down to user permission management. So as part of the Teams the implementation in your administration settings, you can basically work on your user permissions and prevent users for doing some things, just like deleting a message. I don't know, Roland, if you would like to add more information here.
Yeah, no, I think that's it. So there is a lot of flexibility in how you can permission within Teams. I think the other thing to flag is that this can be complemented to some degree by some of your popular sort of CASB products, so Cloud Access Security Brokers. If there was something that you couldn't achieve within Teams, you could potentially get some benefit from a product like that.
Perfect. So thank you both again for that, and that concludes today's webinar. I will email everybody the slide deck from today. That will include Roland and Nicholas's contact details, so please feel free to reach out to them. I'm sure they'll be happy to have a conversation with you, a follow-up conversation. Thank you again, Roland and Nicholas, for giving us your time, and thank you everyone for joining, and have a nice bank holiday weekend.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you, Craig, and everyone for joining.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you all. Bye. Have a good day.